So excited to have the chance to speak to you and kind of gush over this season 4, but also kind of commiserate at the same time.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited to talk to you, Lisa.
What I have really enjoyed about past seasons and hopefully, of course, this coming season 4 of Nancy Drew is kind of how palpable each episode is and how it ends on these like crazy cliffhangers that leave you sort of really breathless and on edge.
Mhm.
And talking about it for a whole 7 more days, 6, 7 more days to the next episode. But it also really balances the darkness and the drama, the lessons, and kind of the pace at the same time. And that kind of adds into the layers of tension and twists in that aspect as well. Is
Mhm.
season 4 more fast paced though in terms of plot, or is it kind of like one episode mystery at a time type of thing?
Great question. So we have definitely, I think what's most prominent is the season long mystery that sets the Drew crew off in a lot of different directions. I think it takes a long time deep into the season to even really understand what they're looking at. I feel like we kind of have an exciting combination of both because this greater mystery takes all of these mini mysteries in order to even unravel what's happening with the larger mystery, which I think is really fun. And within that, something that you pointed out is I think our show has done a great job, and the writers have done a great job with messaging and double meaning and really telling unique human stories through the supernatural, which is really cool. And that is at its most intense in this upcoming season 4. There's a lot of great lessons that are deeply embedded into the supernatural aspects of the mystery. And it's a lot about the people that inhabit Horseshoe Bay and how Horseshoe Bay was created. And that's a massive part of the season. But then, like you said, we have these great standalone episodes that are really thrilling and fun and kind of break up the pace of the full season mystery and just kind of give the characters a chance to goof around, which is always my favorite thing to do. But yeah, I think it has a little bit of everything. I think it combines a lot of the best stuff from the structures of seasons prior. So I'm really excited to see how everyone responds to it.
Well, Horseshoe Bay is a kind of close-knit community, but also the Claw has been a really big kind of symbol or like location or clubhouse kind of in a way for for the group. But as we're talking, like the characters are kind of going in different directions. I mean, Bess has this job, and George has the clerkship with the judge.
Yeah.
Where do we see that kind of dynamic for the our favorite Claw waitresses?
I know. I don't want to give too much away. There is obviously we always spend a lot of time in the claw, and it's honestly it's my or was I suppose my favorite set to shoot on. It's a lot of fun to be in there, and it really does have that clubhouse kind of feel. It feels like the iconic location for the show. And that's definitely not lost. And I love what you brought up too about the symbolism of that location and sort of that place and that building being so much at the core of these characters' lives, especially for George and now Nick, since he, started co-owning it. And that's definitely addressed. And as all of these characters are finding out what's next for them in their lives, we also find out what's next for the Claw, which is, I think really symbolic. So be interested to see everyone's reactions to that.
Well, much of the series also has kind of been about this ancestry behind, Nancy, her family, the whole community too. And there might be like a whole like ancestry.com like tree branch kind of like like separate, I don't know, like leaves or it would be like twisted, like the entire branches of the ancestry.com might be a little bit of a hot mess, but
Yes, for sure.
but that's also been like a really huge core too about the series as well, and obviously Bess being a Marvin and a Nancy and being with Ryan and Carson. How does the kind of family tree branches find Nancy this season between balancing her two dads situation?
Yes. I think I have a two-part answer for you. One of which is that ancestry tree will be growing in terms of the history of Nancy and her bloodline, where she came from, who she came from, and what their involvement in the town was, which I think is really interesting. And I love that we've continued to expand on that, because the show from the very beginning has been about Nancy pursuing all of these mysteries and then realizing that the greatest mystery that she'll ever have to solve is herself, from the very beginning of the show. And that's, I just paraphrase something that I've heard Noga Landau, one of our co-showrunners, say. So I take no credit for that, but that, has always been a big part of the story. And to see that dived even deeper into in season 4, especially towards the end of the season and therefore at the end of the series, is really cool, really satisfying. And I love, of course, that you brought up the two dads, who are, everybody's favorite. How can you not love them? And how exciting and interesting this next chapter is, as Nancy, we get to see a lot of Carson and Ryan as their own independent adults living their own lives outside of their everything, obviously, everybody's kind of intertwined with one another, but they have their own things going on and their own relationships that they're developing. And it's really interesting to explore the dynamic between Nancy and them this season, because it's like, I'm an adult and I'm doing my own thing. And now I'm like watching you guys become like almost a new chapter of adult. They're like, okay, Nancy's fine, and now I guess we're just two guys figuring out what we're going to do with the rest of our lives. And it's really interesting. I love that. I love exploring the concept of a child growing up into an adult and then learning how to be friends with their parents in a totally new way. And we get a taste of that in this final season, which is really fun.
From kind of exploring the sense of who Nancy is, have you learned anything in your portrayal about, yourself in that regard as well? Kind of like, obviously you had 4 seasons worth of season 2 as material and things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely have. I think that there's always something really special about an actor getting to play the same character long term. Which, doesn't happen all that often. And I feel really fortunate to have had that experience, because you learn so much from the character you're playing. And I there's a cool aspect of it for me so I started in this job, I was very recently out of college. It was my first big job. I had done 2 episodes of television before I started Nancy, and I hardly knew what I was doing. And I wanted everybody to think I was great. And I really wanted to please everybody. And in general, in my life, I feel like I'm less likely to say what I really think or to set strong boundaries, or, I feel like I've always fallen on the more cautious end of that spectrum. And especially when I started the job, and now, Nancy has taught me so much about standing up for yourself and setting boundaries and communication and bravery and compassion and what that can really look like. And I've learned so much from her. And there's a cool thing about kind of getting to trial these experiences in life that obviously you're playing this character, but without the real stakes of real life, I get to kind of try these conversations on for size and explore what it's like to be as brash and as bold as Nancy is, and as, full on as she is. And you just learn a lot from that experience of even feeling what that feels like. And it's just kind of, it's like sort of like cheating. Like I get to have these life experiences that don't really count for my life, but I get to have the experience. And that's been such a really cool thing to explore with Nancy in particular, because in a lot of ways too, we've watched her really soften and open up and learn to be vulnerable with people that she loves. And it's really beautiful that in a way, I feel like she could kind of learn that from me, and I, learned a lot from her. So it's been a beautiful symbiotic relationship between the two of us these last couple years.
I mean, also so much of the show, it's kind of extended into like, who we make as family or who we have as our family isn't necessarily
Yeah.
the specific blood. Like family isn't the blood that bonds us. It's
Yep.
the relationships that we make. And the crew has become her family, even when she still has Carson and she's always right, but she has like a whole other set of siblings in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except for Ace. We won't say that.
We'll keep
Mini
him.
daddies. Oh well, the girl. Well,
We'll keep the boys out of it.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
sisterhood between the girls,
yeah,
and the boys are their friends. But yes, there is 100% that found family dynamic that I think resonates with a lot of people. And that's been a really particularly satisfying thing to see people really grasp onto in the show. And in terms of the audience really relating to that. And it's just been, I mean, those moments, I think those friendship moments and kind of coming together moments are just the most emotionally satisfying part of the show to me, and the stuff that I really look back on and treasure. And it's really cool to see how they navigate those relationships too, especially as the group sort of finds themselves at the beginning of the season in a bit of a weird place, with Nancy and Ace obviously ending season 3 in a really confusing, painful way. And we start season 4 a couple weeks after that, where everybody sort of doesn't know what to do, and like, how do they combine this now sort of fractured, weird family? And then, as the season progresses, how do they support each other as they all kind of navigate what they want to do independently with their lives?
I mean, Bess and Ace have their platanker relationship, of course.
That's very important.
But there's been a picture release tease, and it's of
Oh,
Ace and
that.
Nancy, the Nace factor of it all. uh and it kind of looks like soulmates in a sense, like literal soulmate, like an actual soulmate.
Yeah, I cannot confirm nor deny, but there is a lot of soul happening in the season in general.
I mean, we talk about like, yeah, where we left things off with Ace and Nancy at the end of season 3, and this kind of mirroring of like two different timelines of things, and what does this mean for their relationship? Can they have a relationship?
Yeah.
And then as usual, as a magnet in a way, there's always some sort of supernatural trouble or twist that kind of tugs and maybe puts like a band-aid or at least a blindfold or something for temporarily when it comes to those, because then you don't have to have tough conversations when you're trying to figure out who, the mystery of the
Yes, no, that is, you are so smart to bring that up. And that is 100% spot on. And I think that in a lot of ways, as we all know, at this point in the series, Nancy loves to run away from her problems and go solve a mystery instead. And we definitely see that in play for her and for Ace, and as they navigate, and for the rest of the Drew crew, who, especially Bess, who's really on the sidelines of this like big conflict, who's, very close with Nancy and obviously very close with Ace. And it's really interesting to see how they all sort of react and kind of learn to, there's almost something too connecting about when that there's this big harrowing emergency happening, in a way that gives them something to connect over when they feel, they being Nancy and Ace, when they feel like personally what's going on between them is so confusing and painful and complicated that in a way I think that there's a lot of hoping for something external that they need to face together to bring them together in a way. So I think there's a lot of examples of that in the upcoming season.
I love that Bess is such a nice shipper. Like
Oh my God, the
there's
best.
the there's the tease, the actual Nancy Drew like teaser trailer, and then you
Yes.
see like Bess in the background, like
Yes.
my team, my ship.
I saw that. I saw somebody zoom in on that. I thought that was so funny. And like even, in the season 3 finale, when they're, in the alternate reality and they're like throwing that party at the youth center to say goodbye to Nick. And then Bess is like that little photo, people have used it sort of as a meme, that like photo of her being like, yeah. She's the ultimate shipper. And she's just the best. I just need to take a moment to say that Madison is just incredible and has done such an incredible job with that character and is such a joy and a wonderful person to work with. And she just makes me so happy. So I love when people bring her up because she's just the best.
I love that she has these great kind of like details, but like they just are they feel organic when you watch.
Yes, totally.
Obviously they're intentional, but like they feel so organic and you're like, that's me. I'm like, I like I said, I relate to a lot of aspects of the characters.
I'm so glad. Well, it's a wonderful cast of characters that from the beginning, I think one of the things that was most arresting when we first started the series was just how different all of the characters are and how different all of us as actors are, in terms of a lot of different things. Like, it's just really cool to have the kind of chemistry that I think we were fortunate enough to have as a cast, with us all being so different. And it's really, in my opinion, that's sort of what really makes the show sing, is the dynamic of the 5 of us together, and what an excellent job they did casting everybody, because it's great. And the initial iteration of the characters on the page, it's really a treat. I love them.
I love the guest stars too. I'm a huge fan of the show Magician, so I saw Olivia Taylor Dudley.
Oh, who's the best? Oh,
another person who is like so good with that like supernatural genre, obviously because like again magicians, but
yeah.
But to have her as part of like the tie-in and the flip of the coin, like the older version and the younger version as well,
Yeah.
with her and the daughter. And
yeah, it was such a treat having her. She's such a rock star and such a professional. And yeah, we grew to be great friends. I really wish, as much as she's playing my very, very evil ancestor, I wish that we could have had her the whole time, because she's just awesome.
Another great element of the Drewverse is these great callbacks and kind of full circle moments that we've over 4 seasons or 3 seasons at least, coming up to 4 now. Are there any special callbacks or things that you can kind of tease of that element that fans can maybe look out for in an Easter egg way?
I would say definitely. I think,
not to say one, but I don't want you to.
I won't spoil anything, but the series finale is, especially like the last 15 minutes of, and I haven't seen it, so I'm not sure, but the last sort of 15 minutes of the series finale is just a buffet of, giving great conclusion to a lot of things that have come up throughout the series, and seeing things come full circle in ways that I think are unexpected or will be unexpected to people. So that's really exciting. I'm trying to think if there are any smaller little throwbacks. Oh, there's a great episode where we make it to, there's always, I feel like you can always make fun of the fact that we've like barely progressed any time in all the seasons of the show, but we make it to not a year from the show's start, but a year from when Kate Drew passes away. And so they come upon her the 1-year anniversary of her passing. And there's, an episode sort of about that. And I think that's a really special kind of full circle moment for the show. And so, yeah, it's really nice to see those things paid off. And then also just less callbacks, but more payoffs of things that, you know, people have been invested in for a long time. And it's a really special experience. You know, there were a lot of scenes shooting near the end of the season that was just, you could just kind of feel it in the room that everyone, you know, we had a lot of the same crew for all 4 seasons. And for them and for us as the actors, and, you know, Amanda Rowe directed the series finale, and she has done a lot of directing for us in the past, and was a producing director as well during season 2. And there was just a lot of moments that held a lot of weight. It was like, wow, we've been building this world and building all of our investment into all of this for 4 years. And it's just really satisfying and special to see things pay off in that sort of way, you know? So that, I think there's a lot of that people will find really satisfying to watch.
Well, when you kind of read that finale script, did you feel like the build of the nostalgia of everything, or did you feel like, okay, I can have a proper goodbye to this character, or maybe closure in a way for her?
Yes, I was very scared to read the last script. And I'm someone who, I'm always the first to read all the scripts. Like when they send them out to us, they send it out to all the cast at the same time. And I'll like be reading it instantly. And then I'll say, you know, text Leah, I'm like, did you read this? Did you see that? So I was really nervous because I kind of set the scene. I lit a candle. I like really was like, okay, here we go. Let's see how, because I had no idea how it turned out. You know, it really is like reading a chapter, like reading the end of a book, and you're the character in it and you don't know what happens to you, is sort of the experience. And, you know, where we leave the second to last episode is, it just feels like everything is a disaster, which is the way with most Nancy Drew episodes, I suppose. And so there's a lot of, I was just really worried. I was just sort of like, I don't know how this is going to end up. And I'm really nervous. But yeah, I think there's a lot of action, you know, up till the finish line. And it's really, I kept kind of getting through. I'm like, okay, like all of this action stuff. And then we kind of finally get to like, this is the time to tie all the knots. And it was a really satisfying read. I'm really happy with the way that everything concludes. And I think it's right. I think there will be some twists that people don't expect. But I think it will be a satisfying ending for everyone.
Well, besides things maybe emotionally or personally that you've kind of been imparted from Nancy,
Yeah.
I think you tweeted before that you had maybe taken a few items or had a few items of Nancy's. Were you thinking, I think you had mentioned also before that, at least through Twitter, that you might do like an auction or some sort of like give raffle or something?
Yes, thank you for bringing that back up. I feel like I kind of hit a dead end with that at one point, because there was a bunch of, I'm like trying to figure out still the best and fairest way to do it. But I very thankfully did not steal, but was gifted a number of different things. I have, you know, my full, like my satchel and hat and gloves and journal and stuff like that. And I got to keep I remember the claw waitress uniforms were made for us, were designed by Brittany Griffin, who is the pilot custom designer. And so I got to keep, well, we obviously had multiples of those, but I did get to keep one. And that's sort of the thing I was thinking might be fun to auction off for charity or something like that. But yeah, I've got quite a few props. There's
a locket.
Oh yes, of course. I have the locket, I have the watch.
Good.
Absolutely, yes. To really make sure I've got the core essentials. And then yeah, there's a character in season 4. It's an animal that is not Keg Stand, but I'm not going to say whether or not Keg Stand makes an appearance in season 4. But it is a different animal. And I was given that kind of is almost a nemesis of Nancy throughout the season. And I was given that animal, the stuffed animal version of that animal too, which I do treasure. as a sort of final takeaway from this particular season.
Well, speaking of takeaways, what do you kind of hope, besides either, an endpoint or a closure or maybe some sentimentality for fans, what do you really hope that they take away from not even just watching season 4, but of course, like the series as a whole, when they've kind of finished either binge watching or they keep up with the new season? Where do what do you hope it kind of imparts or leaves lingering for them?
That's a great question. I think what I really love about the show and about the characters' journeys is that they really, and Nancy in particular, obviously that's been my experience, but we get to see these characters find ways to thrive despite going through some very difficult things and experiencing great loss. And it's such a beautiful thing to watch these characters struggle. I think that's really important. And I love the journey that they've gone on in terms of, I don't know, it just really sends a message of, despite being faced with grief or fear, being stuck in certain positions, dealing with difficulties with your family, or all the slew of challenges that I think a lot of people will face in their lifetime, that can really feel like it will crush you, that you can find your way through the rubble and really build yourself back up, that's possible, that things will get better, that you can persevere, that you can find happiness again. And that to me is probably the biggest takeaway that I hope stays with people, because I think more than most things, the show is a show of hope that things will be okay, and that there are brave, wonderful people out there who are persevering and care about justice and care about the truth. And it's just a beautiful thing, really beautiful thing. I loved that question.
Emily Dickinson says that hope is a thing with feathers. So
yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of feathers in the cap for Nancy Drew that really feel like to help us continue to carry the hope with whatever landscape we're dealing with right now, or whatever personal things that we're struggling with. I do want to say thank you again for this, being a part of this beautiful series that has been like a second family also, or friendship, feeling like a part of the spooky squad, and that support, whether it's like someone who is part of the LGBT community or someone who feels marginalized. This show has really had a lot of meaningful moments that have been a great beacon to people in the fandom. So I want to thank you for portraying that and bringing these moments to the screen, because of that type of representation makes a difference.
I mean, it's truly been my greatest pleasure. Really, I'm just so grateful that people want to watch and want to care about it. It's been a real pleasure. I couldn't have asked for a better way to kind of start my career off. And I think it's going to be one of those jobs that will always be extremely special for everyone that was involved in it. And, that was, I think, a big takeaway from some of the older actors on our show too, always making a point to tell us, this is one of the good ones. And it's just been a joy from the beginning to the very end. It's been a joy.
Well, we have more of The Good Lawyer coming up for you. Are there any other things that you can share, or just kind of are working on for the moment, either personally or professionally?
Yeah, I'm at, as a lot of us are in the industry, are at a bit of a standstill with the writer's strike. And that's sort of put Good Lawyer development stuff just on pause for the time being, and we'll see what happens, as things unfold. But that's definitely a possibility and something I would love to do. I really love working in network TV. I think there's a really special reach that it has to people in a lot of different kinds of communities that I really am interested in and really love being a part of. So I would love to do that. And personally, I'm just sort of digesting that these were a really crazy couple of years for me in my life and for everybody in different ways. And it's been nice to kind of have some quiet time and spend time with my family. And that's been really satisfying. So yeah, I'm enjoying doing that in the in-between. So we'll see.
Well, thank you so much for all of your time this afternoon. As a big Nancy Drew fan, to get to kind of geek over and have a small amount of insight into season 4 and something that I'm really excited to look forward to. We are about, not too far off or so from the
Yeah.
big premiere. And I look forward to being able to watch live and get that like wave of like tweeting with you guys, or your teases, your emoji teases that we like weekly look forward to, and the playlists and all these kind of like goody extras that you kind of give to us as fans that we really appreciate. That's a really kind of extra above and beyond that we
Oh,
love.
it's so much fun. It's just a blast.
I just
Um,
feel
I can't wait. It's my pleasure. Thank you for such a lovely conversation. And I love, I love talking about the show. So it's really fun to talk about it with people who also love it and care about it and have unique perspective on it. And yeah, I loved hearing. You had great questions. I loved hearing your insight on everything. And no, it was such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Excited. Anything that comes up, or if there's something that you think of with regards to, the either the auction, the raffle, or whatever, kind of do
Yeah.
with the clothes or whatever, like the items or whatever it is, please feel free to reach out. We could do whatever, to help promote,
Thank you so
or be a part
much.
to kind of signal boost, whatever we can do. Thank you. Just please feel free to reach out. And of course, anytime you have a project, please, it's a great
Absolutely.
joy and pleasure to have the chance to chat with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. It was my pleasure as well.